Go. You have no idea where to go, and there are so many tracks. Whew. I can't even begin to tell you just how much I miss being able to do that. When I made my series of videos of the ride through Ladakh on the new generation of Jawa motorcycles, some of you may have seen it. If you haven't yet seen those videos, the playlist will be linked in the description below and you can go see it. One of the most common questions that I was getting was around whether the Jawas can ride off-road, and whether the low ground clearance, which is something that a lot of people have spoken about connected to the new gen Jawa motorcycles, the Jawa 42 and the Jawa Jawa, whether that is an issue when you're riding off-road. I think it's important to understand two things. One is that the Jawa 42 and the Jawa Jawa are primarily road motorcycles. They are set up and designed to be road motorcycles, and the conversation we're really having is, can they also manage to go off-road? It would be unfair to compare these bikes to purpose-built adventure tourer motorcycles, because this is not what they are. That's like comparing apples and oranges. So if you're looking at this video from the perspective of, oh, should I buy a Himalayan or a Jawa, the real question is, how often are you going to be riding off-road? If you're going to be riding off-road 50 weeks in a year, then you should probably be buying the bike that is built to be ridden on trails and ridden on off-road terrain. If you're going to be riding in the city or on the highway 50 weeks in a year, and maybe 2 weeks in a year you go out on an adventure, then you should probably buy the bike that is more comfortable and designed to be used on the road, and either deal with its limitations when you go off-road, or rent a motorcycle for those 2 weeks that is purpose-built for adventure, and then have a great amount of fun on that when you go off-road. Now, my personal experience with the Jawa 42, that is what I spent most of my time riding while I was in Ladakh. I did also ride a Jawa Jawa a little bit, and I rode a custom scrambler Jawa, which is great fun as well. But my personal experience with the Jawa 42 is that it can do it, but there are a few things that you need to be a little bit careful about. Primarily, not taking any chances with big rocks jutting out on the road. Try to navigate around them so that you avoid a situation where your lower ground clearance can potentially be an issue. But I was also jumping the motorcycle. I was going flat out on trails and some pretty crazy rocky paths, and I never had anything hit the bottom of the motorcycle. I must say that I was riding alone and I had only a small satellite bag on the back. I was not carrying all of my luggage. Now, it is possible that if you were like fully loaded with luggage or you had a pillion on, then the bike would be sitting a bit lower and that would change your ride experience. But in all honesty, if you're going trail riding, I believe that you should be riding alone. And if the intention is to be able to ride fast on trails, then you shouldn't even be carrying too much luggage, no matter what motorcycle you ride. Interestingly, for me, one of the things that I enjoyed about the Jawa 42 while I was riding it in Ladakh was the fact that my feet touched the ground quite easily because of the low seat height. And I'm not a very tall person. I'm about 5'7" ish. So on most motorcycles, most of the taller motorcycles, I'm sort of reaching out with my tippy toes, which is fine when you're riding and you're in motion. But when you hit a particularly tricky patch where you have to sort of hop through a little bit slowly, that can get challenging. And the first time I rode to Spiti on the Himalayan, that was the first time I actually dropped a bike in my life. But I went into a water crossing, and as I was going through it, I got a little bit stuck. The bike came to a standstill and then it started leaning, and I was trying to find the ground with my right foot, but there was no rock over there and my leg went into a little bit of a ditch. So by the time my foot finally found the ground, the bike was leaning so much that I couldn't hold its weight and I had to just drop the bike at that point. And on the Java, whereas when I hit more tricky patches, because my feet were able to reach the ground easily, I found it a little bit easier as a shorter person to be able to maneuver this bike. There were a few bikes on that ride that had different tires, which were more off-road friendly tires, maybe a slightly taller handlebar so that you're not leaning down that far to be able to grip your handlebar, possibly even raise your suspension height a little bit. Maybe you make a few tweaks to that. So to summarize my answer to this question of can you take a Java off-road, the answer quite simply is yes. Does it come with its own limitations? Definitely, because it is not designed primarily to be an off-road machine. And other things that you can do to slightly improve its performance, yes, there are a few changes, as I said, where you can change the tires, the handlebar, and maybe adjust suspension height. That could potentially help you with those things. But really, I think it just is about how often you're going to use a bike to go off-road. And if the answer to that is sometimes, then you're okay with a motorcycle that has some limitations going off-road. But if the answer to that is very often or all the time, then you should be looking at something that's designed to go off-road. You can go anywhere you want over here.